Okay, very good evening to all of you again, and especially Professor Spal, who has joined us just a short while ago. I'll just briefly introduce him, and then we request him to take over and start the discussions on research and development. Professor Sourav Pal is presently professor and head of the Department of Chemistry at Ashoka University since last October, and he's one of the most distinguished theoretical chemists of our times. It's a long sort of list of achievements, but I'll sort of briefly just give you a summary of it. He was the director of the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Kolkata for 5 years, from 2017 to 22. He was professor of the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, from 15 to 2020. And prior to joining IIT Bombay, he was the director of the CSI National Chemical Laboratory at Pune and worked at NCL, that's the National Chemical Laboratory, for almost 33 years. He was instrumental in setting up the Electronic Structure Theory Group at NCL, and which has made many fundamental contributions in the area. As he did his master's degree at IIT Kanpur in 77 and a PhD degree from Calcutta University, and joined NCL in 82. So he's worked at a wide range of institutions across the world. University of Florida, Gainesville, USA. He was an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow at the University of Heidelberg in Germany, visiting professor at the University of Arizona, Tucson, University of Turin in Poland, and the list goes on and on, both India as well as abroad. He's also the distinguished visiting professor at IIT Kharagpur. He served as the president of Chemical Research Society of India for 3 years from April 1, 2014. And he's a member of the Executive Council boards of various bodies. And recently he was reappointed as the chairperson of the Chemical Division Council of the Bureau of Indian Standards. He has received numerous awards and recognitions because of for his contributions, which includes the prestigious Shanti Sura Bhatnagar Award in Chemical Sciences, the Sastra Siener Award in Chemistry and Material Science in 2014. He's a fellow of all the 3 major Indian academies, the Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Sciences, and National Academy of Sciences, as well as the Maharashtra Academy of Sciences. He is the J.C. Bose National Fellow of the Department of Science and Technology from 2008. He's a Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, UK, in 2011, since 2011. He has published hundreds of papers, guided dozens of PhD theses, and is author of a book titled Mathematics and Chemistry. And he has delivered keynote addresses, plenary addresses in numerous prestigious conferences globally. And it's really a privilege and a pleasure for us to have him speak with us today. So could I request you to take the floor? And thanks very much for making the time for us.
Thank you, Professor Saikia, for a very kind introduction. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to this Malviya Mission Teacher Training Program on National Education Policy, Orientation and Sensitization. I think it's an extremely important subject where the teachers must be sensitized on the NEP, because there are a lot of confusion in the NEP. So I'm sure various aspects of NEP are being covered. But Professor Saikia kindly invited me to talk more on research and innovation, which is an important chapter in the NEP. So I'm going to do that. And I also thank the organizing institution, AYUCA, for inviting me at the same time. So I think, as Professor Saikia introduced me, I am now in Ashoka University. And I'm particularly glad to say that Ashoka University has a structure of education which is already in line with NEP. And I'm going to just mention that very briefly. And before I joined, I was in ISAR Kolkata and IIT Bombay, NCL Pune. Of course, IITs and ISARs are now grappling to come to NEP, but they all are kind of getting aligned to the national education policy. So I'm not going to talk about the degrees and so on. You all know that there are now 4-year BAs with multiple exit. BAs also comes with research and without research. There are 2 kinds. One of them with research directly leads you to PhD. And of course, the B.Ed has been one of the B.Ed or M.Ed, one of them has been discontinued. But I'm not going to talk about the education policy. I'm going to talk more about research and innovation. So I just thought I will show you some pictures before I start. My journey was from Pune, and where, of course, Professor Saikia spent a lot of years, and where AYUCA is. I was in, well, literally not stone's throw, but few kilometers from Ayuka at NCL Pune. So we know each other very well. Then I moved to Mumbai after a long 33 years in Pune. I moved to Mumbai and then eventually to Kolkata. Mumbai, my stay was rather brief for 2.5 years. And now in Haryana, Sonipat, which is very close to Delhi. It's actually in the NCR region. And I will not, before I go to Ashoka, I just want to mention that even ICERs have been talking of research and innovation. That is a main theme, what NEP today talks of. When ICERs were established, it was also research and innovation, but in a very restricted manner, that is within the science subjects. There is a interdisciplinarity. But as I will speak, you will see in Ashoka, the interdisciplinarity is much broader, including humanities and all other subjects of arts and fine arts, philosophy, sociology, economic science, and of course, science subjects. So Ashoka, in that way, is a full-fledged NEP compliant. Some of the pictures of Ashoka University, it's very attractive buildings and in a very nice campus. Though the campus is not very large, but I mean, they're very good functional campus. Let me talk about the liberal education, which is a very important part of NEP. Ashoka practices this. So when students enter Ashoka after class 12, they do not have to choose a subject. They simply enter, then they decide in every semester what subjects they want to take. And then eventually, depending on the credits they acquire over 3 or now it has become 4 years with NEP, they will get a major or minor in a particular subject. But they can do many other subjects in the basket. So even a humanities student who wanted to do humanities can end up being a physicist at the end of 4 years, if he likes. So I think there is a freedom to choose what you want to study. That is very important. Study of natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities all together. Again, as you can see, this is what the NEP talks about. Of course, the approach is interdisciplinary. That is very important. And it allows breadth as well as depth. And that is not very easy to do that. But many of the IITs and ICERs, they give you depth, but many times they lose the breadth. What is important, again, I think all of you know already in NEP that has been focused, it is a skill development, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and social awareness. The focus is on these skills, which is very, very important. And there is in fact a department or there is a center of critical thinking in Ashoka, where they are only taught how to do thinking in a critical manner. And of course, problem solving, social awareness is a very important part of Ashoka's training. When you talk of science, of course, I'm going to focus more on science. Then you realize that the science is very broad and it gives you a basic expertise and allows you to do academic research and teaching. Research with industrial relevance, alternate science career, and you have freedom and fulfill of mind. So there are many reasons why students choose science subjects. But as I said, when you talk of science, it could be natural science, it could be social sciences, and political science, economic science. Science is very, very medical science, very, very broad. This thing. I must also announce that Ashoka has started a 4-year BSc program, which is the mandate of NEP, since 2022. So the first batch of NEP compliant are already going to move into 3rd year after August. So you can imagine that we are one of the few institutions which have started NEP, whereas many other institutions are grappling with how to do that. So I suppose that will tell you why I said we are NEP compliant. I must also say, that computational science has been a great integrator. The models that are used for simulation and modeling tools are very, very often closest to integrating all of natural sciences like sociology, economics, political science, because the toolboxes of computational science are very similar. Mathematics, computer, and data science, which are playing a very, very important role today, from physics to chemistry to biology to economics and many subjects are thus very natural and started in the very early days of Ashoka, along with biology and physics. Chemistry is the youngest department, but we also require very great amount of computer and data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. So chemistry started only in 2020, as you can see, just about 4 years, as the pandemic had hit us. So it also created problem. So chemistry positioned itself, of course, in the holistic environment of Ashoka, with chemical physics and chemical biology as a natural starting points because of physics and biology. Computational chemistry and its pedagogy became a very important integrator, connecting all analytical thinkings in science, not just chemistry, it's all analytical thinkings in science. And that is a very, very important part to know. Just quickly introducing our faculties. We have, in principle, 8 faculties, and one of them, Professor Mugesh of IISc Bangalore, he's a visiting professor. And then, of course, Professor Avsare. And then there are young people, Deepak Asthana, Arya Ghosh, Murmun Ghosh, Sourav Chatterjee, and Santu Beda, along with me, who are in different areas of chemistry. So, of course, we are going to grow in next few years. Our focus has been from concept to the applications related to energy, environment, and healthcare. As you know, these are 3 very catchwords in chemistry. And we are looking at catalysis, both homogeneous, heterogeneous, how to do CO2 reduction for environment, N2 activation, hydrogen storage. So some of our research areas that we will pursue in Ashoka. So this is just to show how computational science is an integrator between theory, computation, and experiment. I should also say that people do science because there are great opportunities. Students have done science. When I talk of today, I talk of NEP, research and innovation. It is, many of them are science-based, and they get good opportunities to work in academic institutions, research labs, like I did in my early days in CSIR, IISc, TIFR, cultivation of science, and so on. Plus, mission-driven institutions like atomic energy, space, defense, industrial R&D, and very importantly today, entrepreneurship. As you know, startup with a deep innovation as the focus has been the buzzword. So a lot of people are becoming entrepreneur. In fact, at Ashoka, we have a separate department of entrepreneurship. I don't know how many institutions have that. We have a center for entrepreneurship, which actually teaches students how to become an entrepreneur. So it's very exciting. So there are a lot of opportunities for research, international collaborations as you take up science. Let me come to the national education policy. And again, I'm going to talk more about R&D. This national education policy, which is new, but it's not so new now. 4 years back it came, and they had a major structural changes within the current educational system, especially in terms of research and innovation. I talked about the actual education, that there is a multiple entry, multiple exit. Then they have introduced a 4-year BSc course with BS with 3-year exit, 2-year exit, 1-year exit, and with and without project. With project, it allows you to do PhD, cutting your 1-year time. So a lot of advantages NEP gives you in the current educational system. More importantly, I must say, before I come to the research, that there is a transfer of credit. So if you have doing in one institution, you can transfer the credit from that institution to a different institution. So that this is called the academic bank, which NEP has advocated, and now many institutions are creating their academic bank. And I think those are all very nice things about the NEP. And however, as I said, I'm going to talk about more about the RNI. RNI is a very important part of the NEP, and the policy of national education actually exclusively lays stress on establishing stronger research institutions and promoting R&D at the university level, state level, and national level. In fact, they have also talked of 3 categories of universities. I don't know if that has been discussed. One of them is actually called the research university, which has research and teaching almost same level. Another little bit more of teaching, but also of research, the category 2, and then the category 3, which is going to be mostly on teaching. So they are like colleges. There's a different name now, but the research will be minimal. And I think the higher institutions, there's a lot of stress on establishing things. So it focuses on the strategies needed to promote R&I across all disciplines. And innovation, as all of you know, requires interdisciplinary research. And this might help India in becoming a global R&D hub. A lot of changes have been suggested, and they provide basically a great push to the higher educational institutions and lay special emphasis on the strategies needed to promote research and innovation across all disciplines. This is a very important part, that there are structural changes. And I'm going to talk about one of those structural changes that has happened. But I must first say that when we are talking of research and innovation, I must define the word innovation, because there are a lot of confusion on what is the definition of innovation. I didn't write it down, but I must say that invention is a different than innovation. Invention is discovery. Invention is where you take input from nature and convert them into knowledge. So basically, input nature to knowledge, society to knowledge. Like ACRB grant is in a way societal help to generate knowledge. Isaac Newton looked at apple falling and got inspired. So that's like nature helping him to do a knowledge creation. On the other hand, innovation is a reverse, exactly reverse. So invention and innovation really complete the cycle. Innovation is take the high knowledge and convert this back to the society. So give back to society. That is innovation. So in a very simple way, you can talk of commercialization, marketization of the knowledge, monetization of the knowledge. You can say that. But I think in general, giving something back to society from where the knowledge generation started. So India has been pretty good in invention. I must say a lot of discoveries have taken place in recent years. Innovation has been rather poor historically in India. So we have not been able to commercialize our knowledge. This is where NEP is going to play a lot of important role. With NEP, essentially is changing the spectrum of innovation. It lays a lot of emphasis on how to innovate, and that is a very important part that that the NEP has focused on. So one of the reasons this is going to be enabled is, of course, expenditure increase, because innovation also, research and innovation certainly requires money. So this is a simpler thing to do, but obviously it has not happened. The overall public expenditure in education in India has remained around 4.43% of GDP. So this will be increased to about 6% of the total GDP under NEP. On the other hand, expenditure on R&I among this GDP, 4.43%, is to be increased from what is only now 0.69%, not even 1% of GDP, to be competitive with US, China, South Korea, etc. So this is a very huge problem. The problem, of course, lies in both these numbers, but research and innovation, we have not been able to invest, and this is a major change in the NEP, that there will be a complete emphasis. So higher education institutions, I think I should explain what is HEI is. HEI is a very cliched, I should say, term in the Ministry of Education. It says basically central universities, IITs, ISERs, NITs, and so on. They are actually clubbed under HEI, higher education institutions. So they, as a part of the multidisciplinary education, will have to focus on research and innovation. And that is very, very important. They will have to have startup, incubation centers, technology development centers, centers in frontiers of research, and greater industry academic linkage, as well as interdisciplinary research, including humanities and social science. This is very, very important. So you can see how the emphasis has gone not just on the research, because there is a very important part in the middle, don't forget, centers in frontiers area of research. But with a greater industry academia linkage, research must be interdisciplinary, including humanities and social sciences. But to emphasize innovation, it talks of startups, incubation centers, technology development center. This is very, very important. Every HEI has to focus on that. So you will see lots of IITs now have started these centers in recent years, last 1 or 2 years, and this will of course grow. The big IITs, I must say, like IIT, whatever, Kanpur, Bombay, Delhi, Madras, Kharagpur, they had already a very strong thing. Guwahati, for example, I must say Guwahati, which has come up as the sixth IIT, has done an enormous job. For those who have looked at the IIT Guwahati set up in recent years, particularly incubation centers, startups, technology development center, they have done enormous job of allowing small investors, innovators to come in. ICERs, for example, which are more of science institutions, have also now chipped in with the innovation complex. In fact, I'm very happy to say ICER Pune and ICER Kolkata particularly, these two have innovation complexes which are doing quite well. Of course, in ICER Pune Innovation Complex was essentially not required in the beginning because of the fact that the NCL has a very good venture center, which I was associated for a long time. So they can make use of it. But as ICER Pune has grown, they're also looking at the startups and innovation complexes. ICER Kolkata, I must say, I'm very happy to say, the very first year that I went in 2017, I looked at the map and there was nothing. There was no idea of the startups. There was no idea of innovation complex. So I wrote a project under DST Nidhi, and within 4 months, I defended the project. 2018, February, I still remember, in Hyderabad, and we are given 13.6 crores to set up an incubation complex, which are now called RISE, RISE Incubation Complex. In fact, DST, after 5 years and 5 or 6 years, I'm very happy that the center is completely functional in a new building. I had to do a lot of work to get a new building, set it up. And in fact, this Monday, DST people are going to come and inaugurate this Thursday, 22nd of February, next Thursday. And actually, I'm going to go there. I should say next Thursday, not this Thursday, 2 weeks from now. I'm also going to be there to inaugurate the center. Of course, the center is already functional, but this inauguration is more of formal because DST has given money, as you know how it happens. We already have more than 20 startups. And that, I think, is a very good achievement because 2018, when it was sanctioned, after that, there was a 2-year COVID. So when the money came, it was very difficult to build. So we lost a couple of years. So if you look at in 3 to 4 years, it is now completely functional, very big space, at least 20 startups are already working in that RISE Innovation Complex. It is called RISE, RISE Center. So I'm very happy to say that, and that too at ICER Kolkata, which is not actually in Kolkata. Many of you who know ICER Kolkata, that is actually in Haringhata, which is basically a village quite away from Kolkata. The nearest town is also about 20 minutes drive. That is Kalyani. And it was very difficult. When I took the plunge of getting a DST Nidhi scheme, DST people, wished me success actually, because they knew how difficult it is. And I'm very happy. But one of the reasons that has happened is because the government has focused on the innovation. So there is to be a lot of innovation-centric word, and they had encouraged us to go ahead with RISE. So that is the reason I'm saying this has really helped us. So all HEIs are trying to do. So I said Bhopal has also done, and another ICERs are also doing now. And I think this is a very, very important part. IITs, of course, have done, NITs have done, central universities are also doing. So a lot of changes are taking place. The present government has prioritized a diverse range of issues related to RNI. One of the things is to attract fund for research and innovation. And this is a very, very important part. How do you attract fund for RNI? Administer those funds. Networking with the global financial agencies, drafting a project, implementing, monitoring, and then evaluation. So there are a lot of changes in every structural thing. And I think one of the major things is to attract funds for RNI. Furthermore, considering outstanding research as a prerequisite for education and development, the new policy suggests introducing changes in the present institutional and financing system of research and innovation in the country. So I think it considered, unless you have outstanding research, innovation will never take place. Because we don't want to do what is called jugaad. When I'm talking of innovation, we're talking of deep innovations, which are based on high research. And that is very, very important. So one of the things that happened did happen was the NRF, Concept of National Research Foundation, which has now got a new name, as you will see. It is to promote and expand research and innovation, along with funding and seeding research in universities and colleges across the country. So R&D in the path of long-term sustainability and rapid growth, thereby broadening the existing research horizons and filling the existing gaps. Developing active research communities across disciplines to increase resource efficiency at both material and human. This is a very, very important part. If you develop a research community across discipline, then the resources of different organizations can be used very efficiently. Otherwise, one institution is blessed with certain resources which are lying not idle, but they're not used full time. Another institution, something else is full time. On the other hand, if you develop a community research, then efficiently resources can be used, material as well as human. And that is very, very important. I mean, manpower can go from one institution to another institution. So there are a lot of interesting ideas that the NRF moves. So it'll have a fun. And as you know, the February 5th, as we are talking, February 5th, 2024, the provisions of the what is now called Anusandhan Research Foundation, ANRF, all of you have seen this, the act have been brought into force. In line with the commitment of the government to boost research and innovation as the fulcrum of growth and development of the country. So this is to give a focus on the research and innovation, that they have brought in everything under the research foundation. It establishes the ANRF that will seed, grow, and promote research and development and foster a culture of research and innovation throughout India's university, colleges, research institutes, and R&D. So this is the government's very strong move to provide a high-level strategic direction for research, innovation, and entrepreneurship in the fields of natural sciences, including mathematics, engineering and technology, environmental arts and health, agriculture, and a very long-term effect, long-term outcomes for each citizen. So ANRF has a very lofty goals, as you have all following various news, social media, that it has come with a lot of expectations, and I hope this will actually help giving India a strategic direction. The current DST secretary is looking after as an interim charge of ANRF, and I hope the ANRF will really do a lot of things. I mean, a lot of people have also lot of fears what is going to happen, but at the end of the day, of course, everything will be taken care. The current schemes will continue, new schemes will all start under ANRF, and they will also have expert bodies to help them. Just like today, we have ACRB project committees and so on. So things it will not happen that something is going to be decided by people who are non-experts. So if anybody has any doubts about how ANRF will rank, it is just putting all the money in the same basket so that the money can be used in a seamless manner. Unlike different bodies using, and they're a cocoon within their own body. Even today, even within the ministry, DST, DBT is very hard to bring them together, as many of you might be knowing. Universities, so everything is a different fulcrum. But I think ANRF can actually do that very seamlessly, and that will provide efficiency. That will provide maximal output at a minimal cost. And I think that is a very, very important part of ANRF. So this has been Act of Parliament. Initially, they said they will be giving 20,000 crore, which is approximately 0.1% of GDP. Remember, of course, this is not all the money of RNI. Institutions get separately. Like IIT, ISER, they get their own money, NITs. But just NRF or ANRF will have 20,000 crore, which will be progressively increased over the years, considering the level of development and research. This foundation would work to address the research-centric needs pertaining to funding across all disciplines. And I think that's important. Again, the buzzword is that it is a multidisciplinary thing. building research capacity, creating effective linkages between various stakeholders like researchers, industry, government. And that's very important because today, many times research is taking place in the labs. A very important stakeholder like industry is not even aware. Even the government is not aware. So I have seen in a lot of government bodies, government is looking for a technology. Even government is not aware, the ministry, that this technology is being pursued in one of their labs, one of the government IITs, for example. So that is not known. So that is a very serious problem. And hopefully, these linkages will help. In the initial phase, institution will have 4 major divisions, as I said, including science, social science, technology, and arts and humanities. Catalyzing quality research and promoting research-friendly environment will be the key goal of NRF or ANRF, which will also ensure that quality research is rewarded and given due recognition through whatever system of awards. So the focus will be again on multidisciplinary approach. And this I will not talk much with. I'm sure people have dealt with greater leverage and academic freedom to researchers in higher institutions at different levels. So there will be a community of education, teachers and researchers, the freedom to choose across all disciplines. And I think this is what I have been talking about, liberal education. So this is going to be a very significant development. And today we are in a closed-centric academic space, which will actually change. I already talked about this, but I think it's very important to talk about it again because they are also research institutions. So type 1 is what is called the world-class research and high-quality teaching across all disciplines. So the teaching, so these are the world-class research institutions. So the government wants to put a lot of emphasis, a lot of money on research and wants to develop. But teaching is a very important part. In the type 2, it will focus on a high-quality teaching across disciplines with a significant contribution to research. So research will be somewhat less than the type 1. Teaching will still be very high quality. And type 3 will only focus on high quality teaching. And that is at the undergraduate level. So I think government probably clearly feels at this point of time that every institution cannot do research. Research and innovation should go in the type 1 and type 2. Type 3 should be like our colleges today. But of course, there are a lot of good research which has come to college. So nobody is going to stop them for doing research, particularly if it is more theoretical in nature. But they are type 3, the focus will be on high quality teaching. All the above will be known as research intensive universities or teaching universities and autonomous degree granting colleges. So these are the 3 names that you'll give. So there is a constant assertion towards high quality research and teaching, which actually forms the entire bedrock of any successful academic institution. And the multidisciplinarity is very, very important. So this education policy, integrating research and academic program for youth-led innovations, keeping research in focus, the policy proposes different master's degree. Again, I don't have to tell, but you probably know the 2-year master's program, but then the second year will be devoted to research. 1-year master's program, there's exit, who will be completing a 4-year bachelor program with research. They can go for that. And now they're saying you can actually go directly with research directly to PhD. So PhD degrees will require either a master's degree or a 4-year bachelor's degree with research. I'm going to talk about a little bit about innovations. As I said, innovation is a knowledge commercialization, and my own experience with innovation in chemical sector in particular. So I must say, when I talk of chemical sector, and this is of course the fact that I worked in chemistry, and chemical sector provides a lot of scope for innovation. So I must say that chemistry education itself, I must talk about it. Where is it today? Is there a hierarchy? How do you integrate research with education? Of course, COVID time, we had a lot of challenges, particularly online learning. I think that's true for all kinds of education. Fundamental research, is it always curiosity driven? Can it be predicted? There are research which are necessity driven, like Archimedes. accidental research like synthesis of urea. Of course, curiosity research like Newton, apple falling. But whatever you do, education has been a very, very important part. And that is why high education has been focused. This has been a driver of science and applications. IITs and ISERs have been established as such vehicles, but the mode of education is always controversial. What is the best way to teach? Do you teach by going to Blackboard? Do you teach by PowerPoint presentation? Do you teach, more importantly, conventional teaching with the discipline based? And this is where there's a lot of discussion. And I've been thinking about it like today's universities are physics, chemistry, maths, the different classes, right? Biology and so on. But tomorrow, maybe 10 years, 20 years from now, this will change and you will have interdisciplinary education. So for example, one theme I can suggest, let's say membrane in biology. The theme is not biology, physics, chemistry, membrane. So wherever physics will come in, chemistry will come in, biology will come in that particular theme, that will be studied, taught. After, of course, some basics in physics, chemistry, biology in the first year. So how to do that, inculcate interdisciplinary education, there's been a lot of discussion. In fact, I attended some panel in UK where they have been talking of future universities. How will the future universities look like? And I think this is something that we need to also understand. So curriculum, teachers, students, points of discussion, how much of classroom teaching actually can enable leadership? Because we know historically, not today, that there have been leaders with practically limited or no education. I mean, I don't want to mention that, but there have been people, I mean, like Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, I mean, limited education. They didn't go to school. Akbar, Gautam Buddha, so many others that I can mention. So leadership is something different. So do you need a classroom education? So a lot of things have to be taught. However, for science leadership, you need certainly classroom education. And this is where I say that those will help you to either go for a fundamental understanding and go for application. So of course, this is a low quadrangle. This is pure basic research, high fundamental understanding, low application, and this is usually called the Bohr quadrant in the name of very famous physicist Niels Bohr. This is the Edison quadrant, which is more of applied research and less of high knowledge. What is ideally required is to go to a Pasteur quadrant, which is use-inspired basic research. So high fundamental knowledge, high application. So we need to go to Pasteur quadrant. So that is the deep innovation, where great knowledge is being applied and innovated. So I think this is a very, very important quadrant that people should realize. Science in India, we always say it has to catch up with the Western world. It is catching up. And now I must say that. But even in ancient India, a lot of science was done, which are not documented, like zero, number theory. You don't have to talk to you about 1729, Ayurveda, geometry, algebra, even computer algorithms. I have seen computer algorithms in very old days in India, even before the algorithm probably officially started from the Middle East. Al-Khwarizmi, where the name algorithm came. So, but the language is very different and the documentation is lost. But I was reading a book on ancient Indian science, a very different script in which the algorithm was written. I found an algorithm. So it's very interesting to know that. As far as chemistry is concerned, many people in the school believe it's a very tough subject. That is because there is no instinctive knowledge of chemistry to start with. You have to actively acquire. You don't see a molecule. Physics, you can feel it. Every day there is a physics that you can feel it. Biology, you can see plants, animals. So the way to understand chemistry, the more popular learning process is transfer of information from a teacher or book to the student. Student cannot feel it. Such an image suggested that learning should not be problematic, provided the information source is accurate and clear. The recipient is attentive. and the transmission line has good signal to noise characteristics. So I hope you understand that the transfer will take place in a proper manner. In practice, however, learning of a complex subject such as chemistry is a problematic. There's a considerable evidence that both learners failing to make sense of teaching and students developing alternative concepts to the material presented to them. So whatever is being presented, students are understanding something different. So I mean, there are a lot of understanding. So the learning is an active process. What is a learning? It's an active process that takes place in the mind of the learner, and during which information from various sources in the environment, including but not limited to teachers, textbooks, or peers, is reinterpreted in terms of existing knowledge and understanding. Interpersonal versus intrapersonal activity. Meaningful learning requires the student to make sense of new information in terms of existing cognitive structure. And this is the very important part, cognitive science, that they can immediately realize in the cognitive way that is a new one, and they can connect. So teachers must therefore help learners to gradually reconstruct the conceptual structure of a subject like chemistry. Deep foundation has to be in place, and scaffolding has to be used. Chemistry, however, may traditionally be seen as a single discipline, but that's not true. It's one of the diverse approaches, because anything that you see today is built of chemistry. It is hard to believe that most physical chemists are working within the same paradigm as most organic chemists. It's very hard to believe. Perhaps you can talk similar thing other subjects, biology, but physics has a more commonality. Biology is broad but has live experiences. Plants, animals, that's what I said. So yeah, biological life sciences. Chemistry, that has been the problem. We also believe there is a hierarchy of sciences, and that has to break. Why I'm showing it? Because today's education must be interdisciplinary. So hierarchy of sciences building upon each other. So many people think physics, I mean, this is a very, very conventional idea. Physics is based on maths. So maths is more fundamental. Many believe that even more fundamental is philosophy, from where maths comes in. Then chemistry is built on physics. Biology is built on chemistry. Psychology is built on biology. That's a very standard way of looking at it. However, they are not equivalent relationship. Maths is certainly a tool which is heavily used in physics. So you can say physics is built on maths, but it is also done in other subjects. A large part of biology that make little or no direct application of chemistry, for example. Although we say biology is built on chemistry, but there are a large part of biology. But there are parts of biology which are directly built on chemistry. So today chemical biology has become very important. Psychology, which are built on biology, are best conceptualized as parts of life science and not really psychology. But sometimes they come social sciences. So modern chemistry, on the other hand, is heavily dependent on principles of electrostatics and quantum theory is difficult to implement. The chemistry student is expected to appreciate physics for ideas used in chemistry. However, in practice, the student may well compartmentalize their chemistry learning separately from the physics, and this can be an impediment to effective learning. And I actually quote a very interesting book by Tabor on learning, education, how to learn education which is not compartmentalized, 1998. So you can think that the chemistry has electrostatics, quantum mechanics, so a lot of physics is there, but in practice, students still compartmentalize. That chemistry I'm teaching has nothing to do with physics, and this is an impediment to an effective learning. That is what you say. Chemistry is, however, not an application of physics, because this may suggest, these statements here may suggest that chemistry is only an application of physics. Of course, there is something about chemistry which stands on its own, stands separately from physics. So that is what it's saying. But you can reduce sometimes chemistry to physics, but this is not always appropriate. So I think this is a very important part, that I say that chemistry and physics, even in a small scale, interconnections are not so easy to understand. But what is well understood is that you must have a good interdisciplinary training. Today, chemistry is changing from structure-driven to function-driven. Chemistry in the old days was structure-driven. We are breaking the traditional barrier of discipline, like organic, inorganic, physical. We are driven by emerging trends of research. So I think I would not worry about it, but just I wanted to say there is a historical perspective. History of science should be taught as a curriculum. And I think that's very important for people to see how innovations take place, how inventions take place, how innovations take place, where you don't need necessarily to be compartmentalized within a subject. In fact, one of the great persons I can quote is Michael Faraday. Sorry, I'm sorry about the spelling error. A is missing. It's a Faraday. A great person called Michael Faraday. I don't know how you classify Michael Faraday. He's a chemist, or if he is a chemist, but he did a lot of work on physics. G.N. Lewis, Einstein, who himself worked on several disciplines, Archimedes, mathematics and physics, Newton, mathematics and physics. Of course, mathematics and physics are together for a long, long time. But what I'm trying to say, Faraday's, for example, I must say Faraday's story. Faraday worked as a lab assistant to Humphrey Davy, and there is a story behind it. Humphrey Davy, when Faraday passed his master's, Michael Faraday, he went to Humphrey Davy for a job, and Davy told him there is no job in his lab. So he went back, and a few days after, one of his lab assistants actually left. And then suddenly he remembered Michael Faraday. Davy called Michael Faraday, and Michael Faraday took up the first job in the lab of the Humphrey Davy as a chief glass washer. I don't know how many people, our students, will take up such a job. His job was to do a chief glass washing in Michael and Humphrey Davy's lab. And while he did that, and that is very important, the next part, while he was a chief glass washer, he discovered two new chlorides of carbon. So you can imagine your job profile has nothing to do with your invention. So you can invent wherever you feel that you have an opportunity. In the context of NEP, which is breaking down the barriers of traditional education, it is possible, where people can actually go to any subjects.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So, is it fine to say that actually there is no hard boundary between physics and chemistry?
There is a boundary, but the boundary is very thin. I
For
would
example,
not say.
sir,
I said there is certain part of chemistry which is difficult sometimes to see from the physics, but I would say in principle, chemical reactions, changes of structure, you should be able to explain from the physics in principle, but it is very difficult. So chemist, because it is very complex molecule, so chemists develop its own intuition, which are different from the physicist intuition. So a large part of chemistry is indeed dependent on physics, but not the entire part. But what I'm here trying to say that there is no background that you have to be a physicist to do research in physics, or you have to be a chemist to do a research in chemistry. You can start out with the physics, but you can find an opportunity of innovation in chemistry, you can go there. This is what I'm trying to tell. And Michael Faraday showed that. Faraday was a chemist, but a physicist also. So, but of course, there is a small boundary. Boundary is very thin, I must say. But
so
yeah,
sir,
in
like
principle,
sir,
the boundary need not
quantum
be there.
chemistry, sir, like
Yes,
quantum chemistry.
quantum chemistry is derivable from physics. Yes, of course. But I'm saying organic chemistry, for example. There is a lot in organic chemistry where they look at structure and they will tell you something which a physicist will not be able to understand. The
But sir,
intuition.
solid state physics used to be done on based upon those things as well.
Yes. So solid state physics is, of course, more understandable. And there is solid state chemistry, which
Yeah.
is very well related, solid state chemistry. But what I'm trying to say, there are parts of chemistry which have a different faculties of intuition, and they cannot be easily understood. Although I believe, this is my personal belief, that in principle, they can be also derived from physics. It is just that too complex to do it. So no amount of physics principle will let you go there. So you have to have intuition. So organic chemists have their intuition. For example, when they synthesize a molecule, they have lots of reactions in mind, and they recall the right reactions at that time. So that's why I call organic chemistry has an art as well as science. There's a very famous book written by somebody, The Art and Science of Organic Synthesis. Synthesis is something which you must admit is really a chemist's job. Okay, that is where it differs from physics fundamentally. Though the science of synthesis may be explained by physics eventually. When you understand why certain things are synthesized in terms of thermodynamics, in terms of chemical kinetics, you can explain. They are all, you can call it chemical kinetics, but they're all basically physics in some way. I mean, to my broad sense of physics. Okay. All right. So I
Sir,
Yes, sir.
think, yeah,
sir, I have one question.
yes.
Sir, you told that in NEP anyone can go from one stream to another stream or
It
on some
depends on the
people.
person.
Okay.
Anyone cannot go.
Sir,
What I'm trying
how,
to, yeah.
sir, how an social science student can go to MBBS?
Well, they need training. So when I said about Ashoka, for example, doesn't have medicine. Ashoka doesn't have engineering. It has natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, and political sciences, economics. Okay, so I know a lot of economic students, they've gone to physics eventually, or vice versa. You can easily come from physics to economics, for example, because they have the maths tools, or mathematics students, computer science. Of course, you have computer science. So to say that anybody can do anything is of course not right, because it also depends on the individual. I'm talking of exceptional people who could cross the boundaries, who had intuition to know what to do, how to do. And that is something very, very different. I will tell you a story of Talia Koopmans. You will please read it in Google. Koopmans, Koopmans, Talia Koopmans. He actually did a very famous theorem, Koopmans approximation in quantum chemistry. So he was a very good name in quantum chemistry, 1930s. However, Koopmans approximation was derived on a mathematics. That mathematics and that theorem did not fetch him great laurels in chemistry, because chemistry 1930s had a lot of good people who were coming from quantum physics. Quantum chemistry was being developed. But Koopmans used that in 1960s or 50s to economics. It was basically on variational theorem, stationarity, and he got a Nobel Prize in economics later in 1960s. He was a chemist to start with. So you can imagine these are exceptional people. The point that government is telling that unless we inculcate the culture of interdisciplinary education, even such few exceptional people will not be born in India. We're talking of the Indian concept. Okay, so let me quickly finish, then we'll come back to discussion. Okay, if you don't mind. So I've just looked at some of the discoveries in chemistry, periodic table, electrolysis, electron. Very interestingly, battery, I don't know if you know, battery was discovered about 100 years before electrons. Today, we all think conductivity is due to electrons. Battery was discovered by Alexander Volta in 1800, whereas electrons were discovered by J.J. Thomson in 1897. So it beats some knowledge. Anyway, what we are trying to say, that innovation is required because we need to solve problems. Big problems are problems of energy, from sustainable resources. All of you know sustainability is a buzzword today. We need energy efficient buildings, environment friendly processes, green processes, affordable healthcare. All of these require interdisciplinary expertise. For example, to healthcare, you require chemistry, biology. If you don't do that, it will not happen. Energy efficient buildings. Our buildings are not energy efficient. Our buildings are not smart. So to produce smart buildings, smart materials, you need interdisciplinarity. For example, when I talk of sustainable energy, solar, wind, fuel cell, hydrogen energy, bio-waste to alcohol, clean coal, they're all sustainable energy. But chemists alone cannot do it. You require good engineers, good physicists to do this along with you. So one of the things that we are talking of is the smart materials. What we normally see is a dumb materials, which are pre-processed. They offer limited response. Whereas natural world contrasts the dumb material. They have the ability to adapt to the environment, like plants. What is smart materials is man-made materials, which are intelligent like natural materials. So a structure which could give engineers a report on its problems or having ability to counteract unwanted conditions. So if there is a leakage in a building, the engineer will get a report sitting in his home or her home. More interestingly, it can not only sense, the building can actuate itself, correct itself. So you don't need anybody to come. So that's really a smart building. So, but this requires a lot of engineering, along with chemistry, physics, everything. Flow has to be probably there. That whenever there's a crack, there will be flow with the crack. There will be some resources somewhere. So I think it's a lot of interesting thing that can happen in smart materials. Hydrogen fuel cell, all of you know, buses running on hydrogen, that's a dream, but it has still not happened simply because the storage of hydrogen has not reached to the capacity that we want, because we can't generate hydrogen inside a car, because hydrogen is very unsafe, as all of you know. Artificial photosynthesis in the lab is a great innovation. So the emerging areas, some of the emerging areas where innovation is going to take place, pharma, energy materials, renewable source like hydrogen, CO2 activation is a very, very important part. Can we convert CO2 to methanol in a cheap way? Synthetic biology, like artificial photosynthesis, a lot of work will be there. And I think these are some of these. Of course, in the COVID-19, during COVID-19, we had a lot of challenges. I hope we are going to come out of this and we can live without that. I will probably stop here, but I must say that I myself work on computational chemistry. So I must say, what can computational chemistry do? It has a very big role in research and innovation. You can actually today compute, when I take computational chemistry, it could be physics or biology. Using theory, computers, and fast algorithms, you can solve a lot of problems in silico. And you can predict structures and properties of molecules and materials, not just molecules. So you can actually model new materials. You can model new biological activity. And then you can actually start to synthesize innovation. So computation in silico tools are becoming extremely important in this. So I think I will stop with this. And I must acknowledge several sources, particularly in terms of chemical education, where I quoted Eduran and Sherry, Eduran, Jacob, and so on. So I thank you for your attention. Now we can have more of discussion. I think it's, yeah, I've taken about an hour, exactly an hour, I think. And we can have discussion for whatever next few minutes that you're interested. Thank you very much. And I again thank Professor Saikia. But I think the last part that I showed is what are the scopes of innovations? And the NEP wants to bring those in line. The scopes are basically have to be realized through interdisciplinarity. None of these emerging challenges that I showed you can be done without interdisciplinarity. I may be driven by chemistry, but what I'm trying to say, chemistry alone cannot solve. So they require a lot of smart materials, a lot of physics, a lot of biology, a lot of engineering. And I think this is what we are missing in our education. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what we are missing in the education. And I hope the innovation space gets opened up to the students. Young students are extremely interested, I must say that. They are starting, many of them are starting what is called startup companies, entrepreneurship, the alternative job. Creation of job is very important. I quote that again, startup and entrepreneurship is not new in India, but somehow it got lost. I should remind you of a very famous quotation by Swami Vivekananda. He simply said, take risks. If you win, you will be a leader. If you lose, you will be a guide. It's such a prophetic statement. Even if you don't succeed, you will at least guide people. What are the points of failure? I mean, this is a very famous statement by Swamiji. And I think that is entrepreneurship. He talked about it long back. Acharya P.C. Ray, he started company, Bengal Pharmaceutical, long back when people didn't talk about entrepreneurship. We didn't have to teach Acharya P.C. Ray. So these are exceptional people. But that's not enough. What NEP wants to do is to scale it across. And that is the most important part. That unless we bring it to the universities, unless we bring it to the institutions, HEIS, scale this, then more and more exceptional people will be born. And today it's already you are seeing the country space has changed. We feel that we don't belong. We should relearn everything. I sometimes feel that I should relearn, go back to school, go back to college, and relearn. The things are happening so fast. So I hope 20, 30 years from now, the NEP will have a big role in changing the research innovation space. I think 20, 30 years is a long time. I hope it will happen in 10 years or 5 years. With that, I thank you. If you have any questions from the slides, I'll first take them. Otherwise, I'll stop share.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Pal. Thanks a lot for a great talk and underlining the importance of multidisciplinary education and a liberal education, which has been so nicely put in place at Ashoka. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is one comment by Dr. Abhisa Sinha, which says, I wonder how would you classify Professor Mahalanobis and even Professor Fisher?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are people who are statistics people. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody is interdisciplinary. People who can work on a particular field. But today, you know that you want to go to any science, statistics is very important. Data science is very, very important. So zero-level statistics is required for everybody. Even social sciences, history. And in fact, Ashoka, we are laying a lot of emphasis on at least what I call zero-level science. So everybody has to know, even the history student has to know, political science student, psychology student, they have to. So a lot of discussion is going on how to teach mathematics to people who have not done mathematics at 11 and 12 because they feel lost. I know in my class, a lot of people don't know how to draw a graph. So I think it's very, very important and they would require that. So, but I'm not undermining people who have worked in a particular field in a great depth. Depth is not being undermined. But along with the depth, I showed a picture, depth and breadth. So along with this, there has to be a breadth. And that breadth will be useful to go to a depth, another depth. That is the point. The breadth doesn't mean that you will remain on the surface. You can go to a depth. Yeah.
I suppose, Professor Pal, I mean, when you talk of multidisciplinarity and Professor Mahalanobis, I mean, I suppose this whole area of knowledge being generated at the boundaries of the traditional disciplines have made multidisciplinarity far more important in recent times than maybe at earlier times. Would that
Absolutely, absolutely. So recent times people have realized that it is very, very important to have multidisciplinary. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah. So that is absolutely true. So somebody has asked a question, Surendra Pratap.
Kindly
talk about
experimental part and theoretical one. Sorry, go ahead.
Experiments, people get projects, but not in theory. I don't know what you exactly mean that
Sir, yeah. It is better to talk actually.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, sir, since you said that you belong to the theory part actually. I mean,
that is my expertise, but
yes,
I would
sir.
have loved to do experiment also. That
Yeah,
is a
that
different
is
matter.
fair. So means when we are putting some projects, sir, sometimes for theory person, it is become sometime tedious actually to get those projects. So can you please say something about
Do you
that?
mean to say funding agencies do not provide projects for?
That's what I want to say. Yes, sir.
You mean SERB and all that?
Yes, sir.
That is not true because I myself have got at least 20 projects in my lifetime on Indo-French, Indo-European, DST. That time SERB was not there. And even in CDAC and I don't know, I have forgotten how CSIR. And
That means
DST itself
what
had
kind
4 or 5
of
points.
points, sir, we need to keep those things in your mind? I mean, that's
So what I'm trying to say, I don't think the funding agencies are biased against theory. I do
okay.
not know why specifically you're saying that unless you have very bad experience. But is there any reason to say that experimental people only get projects and theories don't get? I mean, of course,
Means
theories require less. Their requirement is also less. So a mathematician doesn't require a lot of money, for example, or even maybe theoretical physicists. Unless theoretical chemists, of course, do require because they want computers. Theoretical physics also requires computational physics, solid state physics, material physicists. They require big computer, even if they do theory. So they require money, no doubt, but that will be less than the experimental people. So that could be true, but saying that the number of projects is of course going to be less in theory simply because number of people who are pursuing theory, at least in chemistry, is much less than experiment. Physics, it may be a little bit different. There are a lot more people pursuing theory in physics, but chemistry certainly is a more experimental subject. So that may be the reason that the theory. But I'm not very sure that I will agree with the statements that good theory projects are being supported.
okay, sir.
I also agree with Professor Pal because I'm more experimentally inclined or phenomenologically inclined, but I have a lot of theory friends who have got project funding for their projects. So I don't think it's a bias.
So this is a very interesting question, Dr. Kanu Sheel. If a student of history choose to research in archaeology and environmental chemistry in engineering, will he be awarded from Faculty of Engineering? So now the question is, this is a question, a very technical question. If you are asking about Ashoka, we don't have Faculty of Engineering. So of course, degree cannot be given from a Faculty of Engineering, but we can have chemistry, we can have archaeology department is there. So the person can get, so where he gets the degree, the student, he or she gets the degree is unimportant. The content I'm talking about the content being interdisciplinary. So the degree can be from anywhere. There are technical problems that we suddenly cannot say that it is so interdisciplinary, give engineering faculty, because there are UGC rules of setting up faculties. So they have to go through a lot of process. But an interdisciplinary research can certainly be accommodated in many of the things that we have. But particularly the example that you are giving, history student doing archaeology, no, there is no problem. Plenty of people are there who are history and archaeology. Somebody like Nanjot Lahiri, many of you might have heard her name. She is an archaeologist. She is also a historian in some sense. And those people are teaching here in Ashoka, I'm telling you. And they are certainly, the students are getting degree, either in history or in archaeology, it doesn't matter. But the research can be interdisciplinary.
Actually, just to
Yeah,
add
do
to
you
what was,
believe that the
sorry.
demise of languages? Can you elaborate this question a little bit? I thought the languages have come back in the NEP, in the education. I did not mention about NEP. NEP has a very important part of regional languages, teaching in regional languages. I'm sure those who have covered the NEP education must have thought about it. The regional language is very difficult. In fact, many ISERs and IITs are finding it difficult to actually do this. So I didn't know why you are saying there's a demise of languages. Oh, you are saying NEP addresses. I understand. Yes. Sorry, I did not get your question initially. You are asking that the demise of language, is it addressed in NEP? Yes, to an extent, yes, I agree. I believe it. Sorry. Yeah.
Actually, just to add to the previous question on different degrees, I just wanted to add that, for example, when you talk about engineering, IIT Bombay has recently started, hopefully they will take off this year, the Center for Liberal Education, where the degree can come depending upon the number of subjects the student actually chooses. It could be engineering, it could be sciences, it could be humanities. But they're also trying to offer choices across disciplines, just as they're doing in Ashoka. And it's probably the only IIT right now which has taken, which has put this in place.
Right.
It has been approved by the Senate, but it has not yet. Hopefully this year it will start off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have heard about it, IIT Bombay, this center. The IIT Bombay is a great IIT, I must say that. In many ways, it is innovating now. I think being in Mumbai also helps that environment of innovation.
And this initiative actually came from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences.
Oh, I see.
They got
Okay.
the community on board. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Very good.
Okay. If there are no comments or questions, thanks very much, Professor Pal,
Yeah.
again.